Yo everyone, welcome back to brand new Techish. It is me, Michael Behane, one half of Techish and the CEO of Pocket and Pocket Jobs, and I am joined with
Abadesi, CEO of Hustle Crew.
And if you're a first-time listener, Techish is a tech and pop culture show. We cover everything across technology, industry, and culture. I thought I would give that introduction because there might be a first-time listener.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of
discovered you through TikTok.
Exactly, and a lot of like podcasts I feel like do a disservice because they just start doing inside jokes from 10 years ago and you don't really know what's going on. So that's
We're not 10 years old. Yes.
You're up to speed. Okay, so cool. First story. It's not actually on the docket, but I wanted to talk about just the layoffs. I've been having so much experience doing in my sales process, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, people in senior positions. By the time I get them to come on a call with me, they're like, oh, I've been laid off. Wow. Or I've got people on a call with me and they're like, you know what? I feel bad taking this call, but just to let you know, I've been laid off. There's no sell opportunity here. There's no, but I just wanted to.
While you're on the call.
No. As in like they had,
so bad.
They knew they had been laid off and instead of cancelling the meeting, they went ahead with the meeting.
Damn.
And obviously I can't say nothing. I'm not going to be mad at them. I'll be like, okay, fair enough. And you know, we end up just talking about careers and I give them advice and tell them to sign up to Pocket Jobs to find a new job opportunity.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing out there?
It's hard out there. I was on layoffs.fyi earlier today, hanging out with one of my friends that works at Google and wondering, have there been more people laid off in January 2024 than January 2023?
Possibly.
Because I think so.
Yeah.
So today it was announced Okta and Zoom did layoffs. And the numbers are rising. Tens of thousands of people have been laid off in the tech industry. What I found really interesting was opening up the FT, Financial Times, and seeing like all the headlines about Amazon shares bouncing back after layoffs, Facebook shares, Facebook's paying dividends back to shareholders for the first time because they're like, oh, we laid off all those people, we're getting all this money back. What I think is so disturbing and concerning is what you're saying. Like, think about the people you're interacting with as someone who's focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. A lot of the people running these employee resource groups, a lot of the people who have been at the forefront of these initiatives are always at the front of the firing line. Like, 100%. Why are Black people getting fired first? Why are people of color getting fired first? And ultimately, like, how does that impact your culture and shape your culture? And if you're one of the few Black people left, you're going to be feeling a certain way. But
you know what? I think it's down to the fact that we often get into these organizations and we're like, oh, I can't believe it. This is so great. I'm getting paid so well. Let me get more of my people in. So we end up getting attracted to those HR roles or like, you know, running the employees resource groups.
Of course.
So then we're in the first in the firing line when it's time to like lay people off, unfortunately. You know, I don't think if you're someone like, you know, the head of AI and you're Black, you're more likely to get laid off. But it just happens to be that we are so passionate about bringing people in and helping our community that we end up like probably doing ourselves a disservice by wanting to like focus so much on those roles. Not to say that it shouldn't be done. It's just, unfortunately, it's a byproduct.
I also think that it's about power, right? And when push comes to shove, there's a lot of power in the dominant groups. And with that power comes a lot of unaddressed bias, like affinity bias, right? So if your CTO is a cis-het white guy, he's probably got a closer affinity to the people like him.
His buddies.
Whether he's thinking about it or not. The people that, I don't know, he went to Burning Man with, he's drinking fuel with, riding a freaking fixed gear bike on the weekend with. And when he has to decide who he wants to let go, he's not going to pick the people who like he sees as his friends. He's going to pick the people who like he's kind of never really vibed with. And that's the like unspoken truth about layoffs as well. Like, it is numbers and this and the other, but it's also like at the end of the day, like who you're not going to miss.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. You know what's funny about Okta actually? So we actually got like a lead from them. So they inbounded us and said, "Oh, we're potentially interested in like using your hiring services."
Okay, interesting.
And that was like 20 days ago.
What?
And now like there's been layoffs. So which tells me that people are being blindsided. They've been told, well, yeah, we're still expanding. And this is like, I don't know if companies are now just taking this opportunity to do this or whether they know the numbers are not good. It feels very following the herd. The fact that everyone's doing it simultaneously. It's not as if everyone's business has the exact same structural problems. It's obviously just like, well, everyone else is doing it. Let's just do this too.
Well, I have companies working with Hustle Crew who are asking us to design hiring training. And these are companies that did layoffs or are planning layoffs. So
interesting.
It feels very tactical. It feels very much like, let's trim the fat, but let's also hire the roles that, you know, we actually still need in the business. But here's something. So this tweet went out and it basically said Twitter is still functioning with like a fraction of the staff. And it was kind of a message about bloat, right? Like, it was basically like calling out founders, calling out leaders, and kind of saying, look, a lot of y'all are operating with very bloated teams. Now, I'm not saying that this is the case for every single company that's doing layoffs. Without a doubt, there's like some strategic efforts happening, following the herd, trying to get the share price up. But I think there's also a very important conversation to be had around bloated teams. And I'll just give you like a real life example. So earlier this week, I was walking down Oxford Street and I had to do a call in like 20 minutes, but I didn't have my headphones and my AirPods were dead. So I was like, I need to take a call in my co-working space. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a phone booth available. So I was like, look, let me just buy a pair of headphones. I walk into like 3. It's a mobile phone network.
Yeah, I understand.
I see a group of staff huddled around talking to each other. No one looks up.
Oh, you're such a boomer. Are you really going to say, you're going to be like the retail staff
so
are lazy.
I'm just like, okay, whatever. Hey man, I worked in retail, walk into Vodafone. Same kind of thing. All the staff huddle around each other. No one looks up. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm in a rush. Walk into literally the 3rd mobile phone store. Maybe it's like EE now. Samsung. I walked into Samsung.
Okay.
Again, all the staff huddled around in a conversation. I'm literally hovering around them. I'm like, hello, hello. And someone looks up and they're like, hi. I was like, do you sell like Jack headphones? Like just Jack headphones? They're like, no, we don't. Finally, Curry's came to the rescue. Curry's, like old school electronic shop. I walk in, I see the audio sign, go up the escalator, and this like older gentleman is like, hello, may I help you? And I'm like, I want to find your cheapest plug-in headphones, please. And he's like, right this way, white or blue, $8.99. And I was like, oh, bruv, okay.
Yeah.
But I was a bit like, some of these brands, their teams are bloated or their staff aren't trained.
You can't compare your retail experience with big tech. But you're right.
Why not?
Listen, as any organization scales, there's always going to be bloat because the person who cares the most, the founder, the owner of the company, is far removed from every single aspect. You know, for me, when me and you walk into a room and it's our company, every dollar being spent is our dollar. So we're like, okay, hold on, what we doing here? What we doing here? And then eventually you have layers and layers of hierarchy, and it becomes, you know, the person who's in charge, it's no longer their money. It's no longer their bread on the line, right? But I don't know. I think the Twitter thing is interesting because 75% have been laid off, but has the revenue maintained? And the answer is no. As somebody who's an engineer, keeping a website online is not the challenging part. You can actually, you know, scale a website quite easily in this day and age with all the tools that are available, AWS, whatever, even up until like, you know, millions of users. But what has changed at Twitter is, one, there's no more advertisers. They've lost a lot of ad revenue. True. And a lot of that is because obviously, you know, King Musk is a fool and said a lot of stupid stuff. But also,
lot of dumb shit.
But I'm sure also there was a lot of salespeople that had good relationship with advertisers and could, you know, manage those relationships and keep that revenue coming in. So to me, that tweet about like, oh, the website's still up. The website going up, staying up to me shouldn't ever really have been in question. It's just, can you maintain revenue? And they haven't. And they're probably losing more money now than they ever were. So
how much longer?
I don't know. I don't know. It's very hard to predict Elon. He's very, you know, strange. And I think he has this ability to keep getting people to give him money because he's a master of narrative. He has a cult following.
He's a big white man.
Yeah, no, but listen.
People love tall white men.
Yeah, but he has a cult beyond that. It's a cult following. I know somebody, and I may get him on the podcast to talk about it, who has put their entire life savings into Tesla.
That's just dumb.
I mean, listen, but the thing is, he's put out content, and I respect the person, and I want to speak to them about it and bring them on the podcast. They were like,
I think it's dumb.
Okay, yeah. No, I don't think it's optimal, and I don't think it's smart. But he essentially is somebody who used to work on radio, was gonna buy a house, had his deposit sorted out, and he's like, you know what? Let me just put it all on Tesla. And obviously, at one point in 2020, 2019, that was 10x. So obviously, you now start feeling like I'm riding this all the way to the top. I'm like, please diversify, but. The point I'm making is that he has a cult audience. There's very few entrepreneurs that I've seen have, you know, fanboys like this in it.
Maybe so Steve Jobs in his day.
Exactly. So I think Elon will always have people borrowing him money, so he will never have to shut down Twitter, even if the company itself is bankrupt or X, whatever you call it now. Yeah, layoffs, man. It's terrible time. Was there anything else on the layoffs that you wanted to?
Actually, I can plug something for Hustle Crew.
Yeah, go and do that.
So this time last year, we ran a webinar series, a 4-part series called Layoffs to Lemonade. I myself have been laid off twice since 2020, right? And despite that, like, I think I'm doing pretty well. And what I wanted to say is, like, this can be actually a really exciting opportunity to reflect on your career motivations and career aspirations in a way you don't often get the time and space to reflect to. So follow Hustle Crew at Hustle Crew Live on Twitter, you know, TikTok, LinkedIn, and we're putting out a bunch of free resources to help you turn your layoff into lemonade.
I love it. You're really good at names. Because even Techish was your name idea as well.
Thanks.
And then I think even you have your company Play School.
I am my accelerator for
Accelerator, which is a really good name. I don't think you realize how good of a name that is. Yeah, Play School. That's amazing. The other thing I wanted to talk about that actually. So what I've seen is on Twitter, a few people now saying that I'm transitioning out of tech.
You?
No, not me.
Oh, on Twitter.
In general, the person saying that
you're a
is
TikTok
like,
star now.
Yeah. There are people who are saying, listen, I'm trying to go to more stable industries.
Damn, tech ain't stable no more.
Or if they are going to work in tech, it's going to be like government tech.
Wow.
Or it's going to be like maybe working in a finance company and being an engineer there. But I saw a few people that were like, literally, I'm doing farming. I'm like real
farming.
Yeah, but stuff where it's like there's stability. Wow. It's much more tangible. Because I feel like for the last 10, 12 years, we were just like, everybody learn to code, everybody get in. It's unlimited. Right now, there probably now is almost a surplus of talent. I know junior engineers who have been looking for work for 2 years.
No.
Yeah, like entry-level graduate computer science.
A surplus of tech talent.
I genuinely believe now, I mean, when you look at all the layoffs, and you got to realize how many startups were getting funded, starting... Because one startup needs 4 engineers, and there was an endless supply of capital for 10 years.
Yeah.
Not to mention crypto projects, not to mention everything. Right now, there's like it's quiet right now. There isn't. It's not a boom time. So there is a bit of a deficit. There is probably an oversupply of talent, and I can't blame people for thinking, you know what, I want to go somewhere where it's a bit more stable. I'm sure the same thing happened in the .com bubble.
So what you're saying isn't that they're necessarily leaving tech, it's just that they're leaving startup scene.
No. Some people are actually saying, I'm leaving tech full stop. Yeah. Other people are saying, I'm going to go work for government or whatever.
I find this questionable. I still think that tech is the fastest growing industry.
You think so?
In terms of providing jobs, yeah. So what you're telling me, people are going back into farming because farming has more jobs than tech. Come on, bro.
Listen, some people are going back to basics. You know what I mean? But
I don't know about that.
Listen, you're right. Probably in the sense that startups is where it's not at. Yeah. But then even, for example, big tech is not where it's at. So what I mean by that is working at companies that define themselves as solely tech companies probably isn't that secure.
Like
but
software?
Working, like big, like Google, like Facebook, they're always going to trim the fat and your job probably is always at risk. But going to work for a bank who needs engineers or a product manager, that probably is far more stable.
I think we need to remember that the conversation about tech being a fantastic industry to work in, which I feel like I have been a part of and I've literally built my career and my company in, is also around this like important need for like the digital skills gap, right? And I think that digital skills gap like still very much exists. Like I don't think that's an issue that's been solved. Like, I think we still need people that, can do social media, like digital marketing, software engineering. Like, I don't think these things will go away. Like, maybe in the long-term future, they're threatened by generative AI or things like that. But I think in the near term, like, these skills are still very much in demand and still needed.
But I think it's not as in demand as it once was. And I think
that's true of all jobs in a downturn or
I agree,
a flat economy.
But like, we still can't maintain that same level of energy and be like, listen, just learn to code and you're going to be great. No, that's not the case anymore. We know people that run boot camps and they're like, yo, we can't get nobody hired.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
if someone's listening to this now and they want to transition into tech, I'm not going to sit there and say, yeah, learn to code and you're going to be great.
What I will say is that when times get tough, the competition is greater.
100%.
So there's no space for mediocrity. There's only space for excellence. And that's true in entrepreneurship as well, right? Like, we're sitting here as people in diversity and inclusion market that's constantly under attack, shrinking compared to the booms of like 2020. And the fact is, a lot of our competitors ain't here no more.
That's true.
Right? And I think that's because unless you can maintain a bar of excellence and give your clients and your customers what they feel like is value on top of the dollar, on top of the spend, you are gone, you are dead.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting. So let's talk about TikTok and Universal Music Group. So the Universal Music Group is like one of the largest record labels in the world.
Taylor Swift, Harry Styles,
Drake. I think they have 1/3 of all of global music.
Shut the front.
Listen, the record label industries it's a mafia without any question. So I think they negotiate a deal with TikTok every so often for how much royalties does Universal get for the music getting played on TikTok. And they couldn't come to an agreement. So it's now ended up where Universal is pulling out like, all of their music from TikTok.
Damn.
So there's a lot of videos now where people were like, miming and dancing along. It's all silent now.
That's so awkward.
All the music is gone.
Silent TikToks.
Both companies have released letters accusing the other company of basically being greedy, foolish, short-sighted. Essentially, Universal's claim was that TikTok is trying to build a music company and they're not willing to pay the rights for that music. So I think Universal was looking at TikTok and saying that you're basically trying to be Spotify. And they probably, Universal, despite the fact that the artists have been screwed, I feel like the labels have done well out of streaming, but probably even still the labels probably think, you know what, compared to the golden era of selling $20 CDs, we've lost money. So I feel like they're trying to strangle in the crib another Spotify as far as they're concerned, because they'll feel like, oh, we went into Spotify streaming blindly. We're not letting this happen again, where we build another, like, because TikTok could be worth, I don't know, hundreds of billions, 200 billion, definitely. 300 billion.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, well, actually, you guys are trying to build a giant corporation off our intellectual property. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Do you think
that's really interesting? Yeah.
Do you think TikTok can survive without that kind of music?
There's no TikTok without the memes and the trends. You know, people rely on it. Especially, you know, I probably have a very different TikTok feed to people who are in high school or people in their 20s. But my understanding of like young people's use of TikTok is very trends based, and it's very much like, ooh, this is the new track. This is the new dance, this is a new choreography. So yeah, I definitely feel that it's, you know, from a tactical perspective, a strategic perspective, wise of a record label to be like, unless I'm getting what I want out of it, I'm not going to help you grow. Yeah.
You know what was interesting, actually? I don't know if this is completely true, but so someone fact check this, but it probably is. I heard that a lot of the record labels actually got equity in Spotify when the deals were initially kind of organized.
Really?
So a lot of the record labels are actually don't necessarily mind.
Because they got skin in the game.
Because they don't necessarily mind what Spotify did to them, because they're like, we're actually growing alongside Spotify, basically, right? Whereas the artists don't. The musical artists don't. And to me, these people are the real victims.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? People who sign a contract with a label and they're getting absolutely screwed. So I've heard independent artists who have decent streams say to me that actually Spotify isn't that bad. Yeah. Because like, you know, we can actually monetize our art because we get 100% of all the royalties coming in. Yeah. But if you're getting a fraction of a fraction, which is what a stream basically brings in, a stream brings in a fraction of a penny. If you're now getting, if that's being divvied out 5 times before it gets to you, you're basically getting nothing as a signed artist. Yeah. So the artists to me are the victims here. Absolutely. I don't have any sympathy for Universal Music Group whatsoever.
I was going to say that is a bit of hypocrisy, because Universal coming out with this open letter being like, they're, you know,
protect the artists.
Yeah, I was like, you don't protect Bastards. The artists. Yeah, like, how many artists have you screwed over? Like, at the end of the day, like, labels are also inherently exploitative. So it did feel a bit
the worst.
Pot kettle black, but. You know, I believe that TikTok would drive a hard bargain. I nearly worked at TikTok. Don't you remember?
Did you?
They offered me a job.
Oh, yes, you're right. I can't keep up with your career, bro. The amount of almost jobs that you've had. No, I'll be serious. Like, can I say, we can beep this out, but you used to, even at the Beeb, almost at BBC. Like,
yeah, Airbnb, all the companies. Oh, what can I say? You know, hot property.
Hot property.
But I remember interviewing for TikTok, and it's really, wow, what an interesting experience. So I interviewed for TikTok because a friend who worked in LA kind of hooked me up and was like, you know, I really think you'd be great on the team. Like, the London team is expanding. And it was interesting because, you know, I'm speaking to a lot of people in Shanghai. And I was just like, oh, you know, I've never really had experience working with a Chinese company. And they're like, TikTok is not a Chinese company. And I was like,
do not say that.
And like, it was just really fun. I was like, oh, okay. Like, what I meant was I've mostly worked with companies based in San Francisco or like based in London. And they're like, we are an international startup. And I was like, okay, anyway. The weird thing about this experience was that they were like, we need to know what your salary is. And I was like, you're not really allowed to ask that. And they're like, we need to see pay slips. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, we need to see a copy of your passport. We need to see like a copy of like, wait, I was literally just like, am I being recruited into like some kind of government agency? Like, the level of due diligence. At this point, I hadn't even been offered a job officially. And I remember messaging my friend in LA being like, yo, girl, like, did they do this to you? And she's like, oh, it's just like, you know, that's just how they do things in China. And I was like, but then they said they're not a Chinese company. Wow. Anyway, in the end, I didn't take the job. And like, I remember the recruiter WhatsApping me, you know, this emoji that's like the crying face emoji, like the big itchy eyes. He's
Relax,
like, oh, no, please, we really, really want you. And I was like, y'all were like acting super shady. Like, sorry, like, I'm not taking this job. And he was like, please, can we talk? Please, can we talk? And just kept sending the sad face emojis. I was like, I'm about to block this guy. This is so unprofessional. But yeah,
that's wild.
That's how I almost ended up working at TikTok.
Damn. You know what's crazy? The thing about like, is it a Chinese company? Did you see recently they had hearings? So they brought in front of Congress, like, I think Mark Zuckerberg was there, but also the TikTok CEO.
Really?
And there's a clip that's gone viral where one of the senators, like a Republican senator, is going to the TikTok CEO, who's from Singapore. He's obviously probably of some sort of East Asian descent. He might be of Chinese descent, but he's a Singaporean citizen, born and raised in Singapore. And the senator keeps asking him, like, yo, are you Chinese? He's like, no, I'm from Singapore. Have you ever been part of the Chinese Communist Party? Senator, I'm from Singapore. But like, have you ever been affiliated with a Chinese company? He's like, Senator, I'm a Singaporean citizen who served in the Singaporean army. And it is almost now like this kind of McCarthyism, xenophobic, real kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just strange. But obviously, listen, don't get twisted. Like, it is cap. Obviously, TikTok was formed in China and
Yeah,
probably ByteDance and I'm sure the Chinese government has access to all of the data if they wanted to really and truly. Like, so let's not pretend otherwise. But listen, the line of questioning was a bit xenophobic because clearly the guy's told you, I'm not Chinese, bro. I'm from Singapore. Like, two different countries. Like,
also, like, it's not unheard of for a government to act in the interest of its own economy. Like, literally every country in the world does that. But when China does that, we all start pointing fingers. And look, I'm not trying to, you know, be like, yo, I'm like so militantly pro-China.
Shout out to
like,
Mao on that, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I love China. I love Chinese culture, and I've been there. But I also think there's so much hypocrisy 100%. In the way Western economies talk about Chinese, what is ultimately protectionism. They protect their companies, they protect their firms. But US, UK, we do it too.
You know what the thing is? Facebook and all of the main social media platforms in the US have already been exposed as basically being spying tools for the US government.
Yes.
Snowden showed it. They have access to all of our
elections, Cambridge Analytica, you name it.
No, but not just that, but they have access to all of our messages. They know completely. Exactly. But what they resent is the fact that China is also doing it now. That's what it is.
You can play that game.
So you can play that game. Anyways, I think that's enough for this episode, really. We can call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. Yo, everyone, that's been... Oh, you stopped it?
No, it's in the wrong camera.
Okay, cool. Yo, everyone, that's been this week's Techish. Thank you for listening. Hit us up at Techish Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Leave a review. We're going to read out our favorites. And yeah, subscribe and tune in. See you soon.
Follow us on socials.
Follow us on socials. Peace.
Bye.